Today, I would love to welcome the brilliant and the wonderful Stephanie James.
Thank you so much for having me.
What would you share about how we can live a juicier life?
Each one of us are golden threads in the tapestry of humanity. As we clean out our own cobwebs, as we really give ourselves priority in our own lives, we're literally taking care of ourselves. And then those concentric circles of love and healing go out to others through us.
What would you tell somebody who has a hard time trusting in the universe?
Marci, one of the things I love to do in the morning is I do a body scan and I notice where I'm feeling tightness or tension because it's energy stuck. I have this gift for your listeners, which is
You are not meant to struggle. You are meant to live in the miracle zone. I'm Marci Shimoff. I'm a #1 New York Times bestselling author and the founder of Your Year of Miracles. And after decades of exploring the true source of happiness and success, I have found one thing. When you align with the energy of miracles, life flows with joy and grace. Welcome to Living in the Miracle Zone. And today I would love to welcome the brilliant and the wonderful and the charming and the gracious Stephanie James. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Marci. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so delighted to have you here. And let me tell everybody a little about you. Stephanie, you stand at the intersection of personal transformation and spiritual wisdom. I know that you've woven together your roles as a transformational coach and a psychotherapist and an international speaker and a filmmaker and an accomplished author and your own podcast host of Igniting the Spark. And you have really developed in all of your work a unique way to help people not just navigate change, but really harness change as a force for their personal evolution. And I appreciate so much that you've got this ability to help illuminate the path for people and that you're very authentic. And I love your newest book. It's called Your Big Fat Juicy Life. And we're going to get to talk about that, how we can all wake up and just really dance with life. So I also was so thrilled that I got to meet you recently when a dear friend of mine, Deborah Poneman, said, "You've got to meet Stephanie James." I think that's how we met. So thank you for saying yes to this. And I just want to start off by asking you, because I don't know your story, how is it that you have come to live a miraculous life? Was it always magical for you, or did you have some shifts in your life? Like, was there a time when it wasn't so miraculous?
Yeah, I think like all of us, Marci, and thank you for that question, because I think sometimes we see people that are really living these illuminated lives or they're really contributors in the world, and we think their lives have always been like that. They've never gone through rough things. And I always say, none of us get out of this life unscathed. And even though I feel like I really did have one of those golden magical childhoods, I would say that I went through probably 17 years, maybe even more than that, maybe 20 years after my parents split up when I was 13. And those were really painful times. I went from a golden childhood to really feeling, because without going too much into the story, but I really, I moved out with my father when he moved out. And he'd been having an affair. And the golden childhood that we all were experiencing, it really ended in a single night. So it was really a traumatic, shocking thing when this all came out. But I was really a daddy's girl. So I naturally went with my father. And unfortunately, in a very short matter of time, he was married to someone who just made it really clear she didn't want me around. And so I really went through this kind of being lost or dropped, if you will, from the pedestal of really being my dad's, little princess, if you will, or just really, this, again, just this golden child. And then really moved into a place of depression and sadness, and really felt like I had to work to earn my father's love. And that took a long time of trying to seek that happiness, Marcy, outside of myself. I just kept thinking, oh, if I get good enough grades and if I accomplish these things and I go to grad school and, if I can just do all these things at the highest level, then not only will I be happy, I will have earned my father's love.
Boy, do I understand. I didn't have that kind of a situation, but that pattern of if only I could do this, if only I could do enough, then I'll be good enough to get somebody else's approval or love. The trap that I think we all are under. I think that that is the biggest trap of all. So, what did you do? What turned it around for you?
I was so blessed when actually this happened in your town. I was in San Francisco. I went to a Sufi school in my early 30s, and it was just for a week. It was just a training, and it was so beautiful. And when I
I wonder
walked
if it
in,
was the same one. I went to a Sufi school for a week as well.
was it with Dr. Jaffe?
Yes.
So mine too. Mine too.
Wow.
I love that.
We
Yes.
probably were in there together and didn't even know it.
I that would have been just crazy. I love that. I love that because so you might if you remember this story, then you just stop me because what ended up happening is when I walked in that day and as we're all walking into the auditorium, I shook Dr. Jaffe's hand. And as you know, I mean, he was looking in my eyes and I thought, oh my gosh, this guy's reading my soul. I felt like he could just see within me. And he gets on stage and he starts talking. And there's only about 40 of us students there. And as he starts talking, at one point he stops and he says, "Hey, you in the blue coat." And he points out into the audience. He says, "I have a message for you." And Marcy, I'm looking around and I'm looking around and I look down. I'm like, oh crap, I'm the one in the blue coat. And he says, "My dear, what I want to tell you is," and then I couldn't hear him. And I look at my girlfriend sitting beside me and I'm like, "Did you hear him?" And then he's kind of laughed and he goes, "My dear, what I said was," he says it again and I still can't hear him. And people are beginning to laugh and he is like and honestly, Marcy, the third time he goes to say it, all the air conditioning units in the place come on and no one can hear him. So, I mean, people are just in hysterics and he finally says, "My dear, come up here. Come up here." So I go up and I sit on these little steps by the stage and he says, "My dearest, what is so hard for you to hear, what is so hard for you to receive is stop trying.
Whoa.
Stop trying." And it's like he just it gives me the chills now. He
I
just
just
had this
got
knowingness.
I call them God bumps, all head to toe. Stop trying. Oh my God.
And he really knew. He said, "You've been trying your whole life to be perfect for your father. Stop trying." And Marcy, it was a turning point in my life where all of a sudden it all made sense that I had been doing all these external programs for happiness and well-being and to feel loved, and that all of that was actually an inside job.
Stephanie, I have met a soul sister here because I got to tell you, one of my very first boyfriend, actually, Bruce, uh, told me once I was 20. He said, Marcy, you've got everything in life. The only thing you need to do is relax and stop trying so hard. I'm like 20 years old and he tells me that, and we're still friends. He's now actually an intuitive, a professional intuitive. And so the real question is, so the message is clear and I love how it came to you. But when you've had years and decades of trying, and that's your pattern, how did you stop trying?
Well, like you said, it wasn't a light switch moment. It wasn't like I just did the light switch and then all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, I love myself and I'm really in tune." But what it began was this lifelong process then of listening interiorly, getting in touch even more deeply. I'd always been a spiritual seeker, but it was truly like experiencing the divine within me. And I would say to this day, one of my practices is just noticing. I feel like we're all conduits of light, love, and healing that comes to us and through us into the world. And so I just notice when there's a cobweb, and the cobweb might be, this negative belief where I find myself getting caught by, oh, I'm trying, Maybe I'm hoping this person thinks that I'm okay, or it's noticing when for some reason, like, what's that angst going on inside of me? What am I clinging to right now? Is there something I need to surrender? And I would say surrender has been a continual lesson in this journey, to surrender, trying to even do something my way, and definitely not the world's way. And how do I keep bringing that back and trusting in that divine force that when I surrender, that's when miracles have happened in my life?
I could not agree more. We have in your miracles program, I teach there's 5 foundations for living in the miracle zone. And the first foundation is trust in the universe, is just that idea of relaxing and trusting and surrendering. And I find that that is the hardest one for people. That's the one they get most stuck in. So, what would you tell somebody who has a hard time trusting in the universe and surrendering? Is there a something besides stopping in the moment and looking at where the cobwebs are? Is there some practice that you do that helps you trust?
Yeah, I would say, Marcy, one of the things I love to do in the morning is I do a body scan within me and I notice where I'm feeling tightness or tension because it's energy stuck. And then I ask myself that question, what am I clinging to in this moment? And I can remember, this is just a couple of years ago when I knew my relationship wasn't so great. And I was like, I was pretty much going like, okay, divine spirit, you can take care of everything else, but I'm really going to hold on to this relationship because I really want
There's
it to
always
work.
something that there's always something that we're better at doing than the universe is, for sure.
For
And
sure.
relationship is usually that thing.
So it was a practice then of just and what I love to do is just imagine that I am just sticking it in a basket that I watch just float up then, like a light basket that's just somehow as I release it in my thought, it's floating up into the heavens. And then I love doing every morning, and I have this gift actually also for your listeners, which is a 10-minute meditation that's on my website that's a chakra activation. And so I literally go into my own energy centers. And as I do that, to me, it's just that reminder of letting go, letting go, letting go in each one of these places, noticing where things are caught, and then letting that energy go and re-energizing those places within me.
Mm,
And so it becomes really, it is for me. I think we have to keep doing, as you know, like in the Sufi practice, it's the remembrance.
yes.
Right, and so that's I think what I continue to do, and I would say too to your listeners, the other thing is, I love the idea I had a dream about this, Marcy, and it's in the last chapter of my book, that the dream was telling me that when we came into this life, we chose actually some of the things that were gonna happen to us. So some of the things we might interpret as, "Oh, this was a painful breakup," or, "Oh my gosh, this accident happened," or whatever that was. But in actuality, our spirit came in and said, okay, I'm going to do these preset alarms, just like we'd put alarms on our phone, as these possibilities or potentials to wake up to the greater truth of who we are. And I always say, we can always push the snooze button. You have a choice to stay asleep. That's fine. But I would say that that is part of what can be helpful during our days. We can actually preset those alarms without having anything negative happen and randomly, just like Thich Nhat Hanh did in Plum Village, where they would randomly during the day ring the bells 3 times and everyone stops and takes 3 conscious breaths.
Well, let's just do that right now. I have a bell here.
Love it.
Okay. Lead us in these 3 conscious deep breaths.
Yeah. So, if you're not driving, I always say, and I love putting our hands on our heart, as we know in heart math, that can help us have this beautiful head heart coherence. So just breathing into your heart and down into your belly and really slowly letting that go. And then this time taking your breath even deeper, this time all the way down to your kneecaps. And imagine as you do that your breath is collecting anything that doesn't serve you And so you're exhaling that with your breath. And this time doing just a really nice deep breath all the way down to the tips of your toes and just hold it for a moment. And again, imagine your breath as this beautiful, purifying, cleansing agent, and it is collecting tension or tightness or anything that doesn't serve you, any energy that's not serving you. And as you begin to exhale, imagine it leaving your body and imagine you can see it. It's like a light or color or even smoke. So you really have the sensation of that leaving your body. And then I always love to just bring a moment, just thinking of one thing. It could be a moment just in the morning when you notice the sunshine or you were grateful that you were snuggled up in a warm bed. But just bringing to mind, it could be a moment of joy or a moment of awe as you looked into the morning sky, saw the sun coming up. And now from that place, coming back to this moment and
Mm,
noticing how you feel.
that was wonderful. Thank you. I'm so
Thank you.
glad you led us through that. It's been a busy day today, and just that helped me become so much more present. And I really, really appreciated that. And it also let me think of the garden. I worked in the garden yesterday, in my garden yesterday, and
Oh,
this moment of appreciation, I got to appreciate the beauty of that. So, I really love that you spoke about how in the Sufi tradition that we chose things as reminders for ourselves for this life. In the Jewish tradition, in the Kabbalah, there's a word called Tcoons. Tcoons are your life lessons that we come in with certain things to learn in these certain situations that appear for us, are for us to grow from and learn from, that the universe is on our side. It's actually not a punishment for something. It's really, but I know that it's hard for people to look at something that's happening to them or something that happened to them, like for you at 13 with the situation with your parents' divorce, and say, this is really in my favor. This is really for me. How do you do that for yourself?
yeah. Thanks, Marcy. I think in the moment for all of us, that's hard, right? I think we really need to speak that truth because I think as it's happening, it takes us sometimes a moment to pan back.
Mhm.
I can think really just recently, I just moved to Santa Fe 4 months ago. And a month after I moved here, my favorite uncle, totally out of the blue, passed away.
Mm.
He it was just this thing where he felt like he couldn't breathe, went to the hospital and literally died that next morning.
Whoa.
So very unexpected. And so I had that same sense of like, where we get caught, in the sense of tightness. And like, I remember when my mother called me, when you get that 5:30 in the morning call, something's not right. And my first response was, no, no, this is my favorite uncle. This is the uncle we were all just together who played the guitar or the ukulele at every Christmas Eve ever since I can remember. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And so it was interesting because it took me about 24 hours to get out of kind of the shock of that. And I think, Marcy, part of what helps us in all of this is embracing also what shows up. A lot of people, because I do have a high baseline of joy, are like, oh, are you happy all the time? I literally got a comment in Instagram today, like, do you ever get angry? And I'm like, oh my gosh, of course. I think if we're gonna have, as my book title is, a big fat juicy life, it's actually embracing all of it. So it's embracing whatever shows up. So, the sadness, if we feel angry or frustrated, disappointment, it's not shoving that down, it's actually holding it.
People often ask me that same question. Do you walk around 24/7 with a, grin on your face? And my answer is no. And I wrote happy for no reason. And they think, this is some la la thing. No, I call it an inner state of peace and well being that doesn't depend on your circumstances. So you will feel angry, you will feel grief, you will feel these things, but there's this backdrop of peace and well-being that goes along with it that helps you recover more quickly from anything. I think that's very much what you're speaking to. So the title, Your Big Fat Juicy Life and Everything After, your title of your book is just such a wonderful title. Maybe you could share with us one takeaway, or I know you had an interesting story about the writing of the book and where it came from, so maybe you could share that as well.
Sure, sure. And I just to finish with your point too, though, the end of the story with my uncle was literally within 24 hours, I was able to come back to baseline, just as you
Oh,
said.
yeah.
It's like when we get to that place where we know, I've got this reserve within me, we're doing our work, we can hold those experiences. And honestly, within 24 hours, I was imagining him kayaking with my aunt who had passed the year before, and how amazing it must be for them to be together right now. So it really did shift it, and I do think we learn how to ride the rapids, of life when we know that really we constantly have a life preserver on with the divine. We are never left alone.
What a great image. A life preserver with the divine. Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you so much for bringing up my book. It was definitely one of those serendipitous, and this is like when you talk about the miracles. This was a miracle in my life. A little over it was a year ago in March, this last March, um, that I was interviewing Neil Donald Walsh on my show. And for people that don't know him, he is the one who wrote the Conversations with God. And it's just so amazing. I mean, it sold over 5 million copies and it's, affected so many people's lives. And he and I could not get to I mean, we couldn't get to the interview. We were in this awesome conversation and just having this really heart to heart connection. It took us over half an hour to get to the interview. But at one point, Marcy, he just looks at me and he stops and he's like, Stephanie, you're going to write your next book and you're going to start tomorrow morning. And this book's going to have a global impact and I'm going to endorse this book. And so I did. I mean, I just laugh and I say, well, yeah, when the guy who talks to God, not that we don't all talk to God, but he's, the guy who talks to God says, you're going to
I've
write a
sold
book.
5 million copies of books having done that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, I showed up and started writing this book, and what was phenomenal, like your good friend Ariel Ford, Wayne Dyer's daughter, Sage Dyer, and his wife, Marceline, Academy Award winning film producer of the film What Dreams May Come, Stephen Simon, all these people within Marcy, 6 weeks, that book came through. I wrote that book in 6 weeks. My other two books were like gestating children. They were 9 months each. And this just came through. And it really did feel like a miracle, each step of it.
Mm.
And the book really is about how do we not only befriend death, because we know so many people, especially in America, are really afraid of death.
Yes.
But if we start learning that death is not the end, it's just the next chapter in our book of eternity, then we can actually be more present to this moment. And in this moment, this is where the sacred is. This is where the access is. And that's where we can show up and really have these incredible connections and experiences with one another.
This is the juice. The
Yes.
juice. It's one of my favorite expressions, juicy, juicy. So it's wonderful about the juicy life. So if there's one thing that you would want us to take away from that, or one tip you would like to share with us from that, what would you share about how we can live a juicier life?
Well, I would say it goes along with something I've put in a lot of my different mediums, and it's on the front of my film poster when sparks ignite. It has 3 words, and it says, "Your period healing period matters, period." And going back to the concept, Marcy, of us all being conduits, we're conduits for the divine. We're conduits for light, love, and healing to come to us and through us. And so each one of us are golden threads in the tapestry of humanity. And so as we clean out our own cobwebs, as we really give ourselves priority in our own lives, and that doesn't mean at the exclusion of others, it just means that we're literally taking care of ourselves and healing, doing the work we need to be those clear conduits. then we are helping the rest of humanity to rise. And that's what I believe is the tipping point for us. As each one of us does our work, then we become the pebble in the pond, and those concentric circles of love and healing go out to others through us.
And I think I agree completely. And I think that all these pebbles, we are finding each other. Everybody
Yes.
here who's listening to this, you're one of those pebbles. There is a great collective energy that is forming, even though there's so much that's challenging in the world right now. There's also, I think, so many people waking up more and more to the light that is within and to their juicy life. So,
Oh, I love
Stephanie, I've loved getting to talk with you. My goodness, we could talk for hours and hours and hours. And I'm so grateful for you being here. And I know that everybody here, if you want to know more about Stephanie and Stephanie's amazing work, you can go to her website, which is stephaniejames.world. And Stephanie, I always love to end with a quote. And I'm going to end, if I can today, with a quote from you. Okay, here we go. Here's the one we picked for today before this conversation. I think it's a perfect kind of sum up of what you've just shared is as you live as the greatest version of yourself, you illuminate the way for others to do the same. The unique light that is you was meant to shine bright in this world. So
Mhm.
you are certainly shining bright in our world, Stephanie. Thank you so much. Is there any last words you want to share with us?
Oh, just gratitude, Marcy. Thank you so much. What a joy to be with you and to get to know you. This is just absolutely talk about miracles. This is one of them.
Really, really, really cool. Wonderful, wonderful to finally get to have the joy of meeting you and sharing. So, and I really also want to thank everybody who has listened to this today. Thank you for joining us. I believe that if you were drawn to this conversation, that it wasn't an accident. Something in you is ready to live more and more fully in the miracle zone. So I hope that you are feeling uplifted and inspired and more aligned with that energy of miracles. Of course, if this touched you, please share this with someone you love. And remember that we have a gift for you, our ebook. It's called Manifest a Life of Miracles, 4 Steps to Living in the Miracle Zone. And that's at themiraclezonebook.com. And I finally just want to invite all of us to remember that miracles aren't reserved for just the lucky few. They are meant for you and for me. They are meant for all of us. So let's open up more and more to those miracles. I'm sending you so much love. Until next time.